names that sound more like everyone else.
In Germany, we all talk like this.
I need something more. More than a pill or a pipe or a poem. I need the hard stuff.
It's time to get Ræducation.
Welcome to our second podcast of Ræducation in English. We are Justina,
Yannick,
and Mo.
Ræducation is a project of autonomous education activists in Marburg. In this broadcast, we want to introduce to you the call to action for the global education strike on October 18th and from November 14th until November the 21st this year. Furthermore, we want to talk about the topic of repression and give some recent examples. In addition, we will focus on the latest protests in Chile and Morocco in the struggle for free education. But first, we will introduce the call to action which was drafted by education activists worldwide through the International Student Movement platform.
We are calling for a global education strike. It is the first time that an education strike is being coordinated worldwide. We will unite in solidarity because no matter where we live, we face the same struggle against national state and profit-driven interests and their hold on education. Increasing tuition fees, budget cuts, outsourcing, school closures, as well as other phenomena are linked to an increasing commercialization and privatization of education. Only by uniting globally will we be able to overcome these and enable free emancipatory education for all.
We are all struggling against cuts in education. Most of us are drowning in student debt. The increasing pressure to perform just makes us sick, and the restriction on education and ever-increasing tuition fees, among other barriers, make us angry. Everyone must have access to education, no matter their monetary or social status. We have had enough of the pressure to measure everything, even the unmeasurable. We are sick and tired of competitiveness being the only criteria dictating everything. It is about time that we do something about this together, united.
We are all people affected by the increasing commodification and commercialization of education. This is vividly portrayed by the symptoms affecting us, such as schools and universities being de-democratized and the further implementation of more hierarchical structures. The education market and competition between institutions is being facilitated by governments around the world, which are increasingly privatizing education, healthcare, and all other social needs.
In June 2012 alone, we recorded 45 protests in more than 40 cities in connection with the struggle for free emancipatory education. Governments have chronically underfunded the institutions, often using the current economic crisis as a pretext. They promote solutions, such as rankings encouraging competition, closing schools that underperform, increasing student enrollment without increasing faculty, staff and student resources, outsourcing everything that can be outsourced, promoting elite institutions. All these solutions are steps towards an increasing commodification and privatization of education, which also has negative impacts on the conditions for teaching and learning.
The education market and national states require that profits take priority over developing the capabilities for emancipatory thinking. Both need obeying citizens, consumers, and cheap labor, not emancipated individuals living self-determined lives. We are being mechanized to function as cogs in a capitalist machine. We are socialized to compete with our fellows on every level. Our creativity, our energy, and our free spirits are actively being crushed by the educational institution.
The education system within capitalism consists mainly of training factories, which are supposed to produce human capital for the exploitation on the labor market, as well as knowledge to be commodified. To point out these links and interrupt this mode of production, we herewith call for the closing down of educational institutions worldwide during the global education strike. Fight back! Join in the global education strike!
All justice begins with knowledge. Stand with us as one this October and November, and the whole world will hear our call to reclaim education.
For more details on the global education strike, check out the website of the International Student Movement platform, www.ism-global.net.
I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr in fact is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone. We're human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Let's talk about something we all hate: repression. Whenever people begin to threaten interest of national states, for example by effectively resisting particular policies or reclaiming public space, then they are usually affected by state repression. This also applies to students, teachers, parents and workers, but especially students, in the struggle against the increasing commercialization of education and for free emancipatory education. Here are just a few recent examples.
Chile. The Hinz-Peter Law. If implemented, the public order control law would set up harsher penalties up to 3 years in prison for anyone charged with occupying hospitals, schools, and other public institutions.
Quebec, Law 78. Protests are riding a political high that is sparking growing international attention, while the government is mobilizing for a serious pushback in mid-August via Law 78. Police forces plan to open college and university campuses on strike across Quebec by force if students, professors and supporters move to protest the controversial legislation on site. Aziz Chaudhry, a professor in the Department of Integrated Studies in Education at McGill University, commented this saying, "At times when governments face a crisis of legitimacy, the state will often resort to repression."
Turkey. University students have the democratic right to demand a free education, but are being silenced by a politicized judiciary that has invoked anti-terror laws against them, the Progressive Lawyers Association said recently in a press statement, adding that some 500 students are currently under arrest in Turkey, with 87 students under arrest in Istanbul alone.
Austria. Paragraph 278b, also known as the anti-terrorism paragraph. 4 student activists were initially charged with participating in act of terrorism after allegedly burning 2 trash bins in June 2010. They were detained for weeks. In July 2012, they were discharged. But this isn't over just yet. It is important to know that in 2010, a wave of occupations at universities across Austria and beyond was just about to fade out. More details on the cases in Austria you can find on fightrepression2010.org.
Repression has many faces. That's why we stand united against repression worldwide.
Let's get to our last part of this podcast, a small selection of news updates. As the struggle for freely accessible education and against state repression continues, tens of thousands took to the streets in various cities across Chile on August 8th. Riot police used water cannons and tear gas to break up a demonstration in Santiago, the capital of Chile. As mentioned before, a new law is being proposed that would threaten people who occupy schools, universities or other public buildings with 3 years of arrest, the so-called Hinz-Peter Law. The city government of Santiago had banned the students from flooding the streets of the capital. Therefore, state repression was even worse than usual on that day. At the end of the day, dozens of people were arrested and injured. Also, 3 buses were burned. Among others, protesters say that change will only come when the private sector is regulated and education is no longer a for-profit business.
On August 6th, thousands of students staged sit-ins and rallies in around 20 cities across Morocco to protest for fundamental changes within the education system. Among others, the protests were directed against the increasing commercialization of education as well as for a free access to education. The actions were organized by a newly founded student union for changes in the education system called Union des étudiants pour le changement du système éducatif, or something like that.
In mid-August, colleges and universities will reopen across Quebec. Students are preparing to continue the strike, while state forces threaten to violently crush any picket lines. The world will be watching.
That's all for now.
It's been nice talking to you. Okay. It's been nice talking.
Wir können auch wirklich einfach das dranhängen.
Das klingt so scheiße.
Willst du sagen, that's all?